given the circumstances, given his lack of experience being thrust into this role. And so I still think Jerod Mayo is in really solid ground going into 2025. The question is, how different will it look around him? And I think there are fair questions to ask when it comes to that.
Albert Breer, prior to the game yesterday on NBC Sports Boston, he's on solid ground.
How about that?
But the question is, what will it look like around him?
Yeah, you can't bring everybody back. If you go 3-14, can you bring everybody back?
No, you've been saying this for weeks and weeks. And
I don't think
agree,
you can't. And so going into the year, and even when they got off to a slow start and they were, 1-4, 1-5, 1-6, I still maintain that the relationship between Mayo and Kraft and the things that Kraft has said publicly just this year about Mayo would make it almost impossible to fire him. Almost. I mean, it's the NFL. Things can happen. You can get frustrated with how a season's going. You can not like how it's looked, or it can be even worse than you expected, all that. But I just thought because Jerod Mayo is the head coach and not also the GM like Belichick was, you can look at it and say, well, the roster stinks, not his fault. Oh, the offensive coordinator, which isn't his specialty, isn't as good as we thought, even though actually it might be. But you can find scapegoats around Mayo if you're Kraft and be like, we're keeping him. We made the right call with him, but what we screwed up was everybody else.
Yeah.
So I still lean into that more than not.
I just don't know. And look, I trust Bert's reporting. He says he's on solid ground. He's probably on solid ground. I wouldn't do that, but I'm not running the Patriots. Mm-hmm. I just wonder if that defense, that sounds like the ownership defense. We knew we were a long ways away. We knew the roster was really poor. It's a long rebuild. So
did they think they were going to win fewer games this year?
No.
There's no way they thought that.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if that's the defense they think it is. You guys didn't spend in free agency at all.
No.
On outside talent. I mean, you spent some to bring back your crummy players.
Yeah.
But you didn't spend it all on outside talent. And you didn't upgrade at obvious positions of need. Wide receiver, tackle. You didn't spend any money at those positions. Any significant money at those positions. So, okay, they don't have the talent. You knew it was going to be a long rebuild. We didn't expect anything this year. I'm with you, Keefe. I don't think they felt they would win fewer games than a year ago. I definitely didn't expect that. And number two, if the roster isn't good, whose fault is that? Mm-hmm. It's somewhat on the Wolfpack.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt about that. But he's significantly to blame.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe this is greasing the skids to hold him accountable. But Robert and Jonathan better look themselves in the mirror as well. If the roster and talent isn't good enough, whose fault is that? You guys didn't spend. Mm-hmm. That's on you.
You feel like more wins next season than this past season? Is that?
I do feel that way.
Okay. So we got you on record.
You got me on record.
Yeah. All right.
That we're going to win more than 4 games?
Yeah.
I'm on record.
You're on record?
Absolutely.
All right, good. All right.
Running out of chances.
They needed this game yesterday to pay off on that prediction.
Yeah.
That bold take from
exactly.
Jerod Mayo.
No, because basically the plan, and Elliot Wolf must have been on board with it, and, it's all the stuff that they were saying at the beginning of the year about collaboration, less of a hard-ass appeal, and all of that stuff, was we're bringing everybody back except for the 2 most important pieces, right? The head coach and the quarterback. So if we remove Bill Belichick and Mac Jones, we're going to be a lot better just by default.
That's what I thought.
Well, and you know what? Had you played Drake May right off the rip, maybe you'd have a chance.
Maybe.
And not that you're that your bounds better, but maybe you win 5 games.
I
Drake
also
May
assumed
plays
they
all
would
season.
give him a receiver. I assume they would. Look, they drafted one in the second round. They drafted the wrong one.
True.
But they drafted one. But I thought they would draft one in the second round with Drake May and go out and get, if not a Calvin, somebody. Get somebody.
They just did not.
And
they got KJ Osborne.
Yeah.
Kendrick Osborne.
I just don't think that's quite the defense they think it is. We knew he was getting thrust into a tough situation, and there's not a lot on the roster.
But
whose fault is that?
But they still need a fall guy, right? Don't they need a Chris Carter fall guy?
Yes.
Because if they can't just say, well, now we'll spend money, because then it's like, well, why didn't you spend it last year?
Right.
It's like, well, no, we're going to spend money, but we're also going to have a new D coordinator and a new this, that, and the other
When
thing.
he says it's going to look different around Jerod Mayo, Bert, is that Covington, or does it feel like it needs to be a bigger move than Covington?
I think right now Covington makes the most sense just because the defense has been bad. And I know Mayo should be a defensive guy, but maybe you find somebody with more experience doing that. Because Van Pelt's done probably enough to keep it.
But it's just the scared play calling yesterday bothered me so much coming out of the game.
I get it.
I mean, we're going
But
to
is Drake
we're going to
May-
talk to him tomorrow. I'd swing back to moving on from Van Pelt. Do what they did with Sirianni in Philly. Fire both coordinators.
You could do that, but then again,
If you're not firing, I would fire Mayo. But if you're not doing that and he's on solid ground, then fire everybody around him.
all right, if it's not Van Pelt, and I'm not like the biggest Alex Van Pelt defender by any means, but they interviewed 12 guys last year.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was Luke Getzy, who got fired. One was Shane Waldron, who looks like the worst offensive coordinator of all time.
Yep.
Like they went through a bunch of guys that either said no or took other jobs and failed. Like Van Pelt might look decent compared to
It's
like
true.
what kind of dog and pony show of an interview process would we
Okay,
get?
but don't you just think more guys are going to be lining up to work with May?
Yeah. I mean that would be the hope.
And I know technically last year you probably had a good idea. You were going to be working with a young quarterback, but you hadn't seen what May looks like.
I mean, I would say the best of that group, though, would be lined up to be the head coach for Caleb Williams.
Well, fair.
Than
That's
they
fair.
would the OC.
Yeah,
for
Ben
Drake.
Johnson might take the Chicago job, and then you got to get the next guy.
Yeah, right.
Paul in Medford's been waiting patiently. Go ahead, Paul.
Paul? Listening to the show, though. Appreciate that.
Pa?
Pal, you there? Pal?
Hey,
Paul.
he wanted to weigh in on the poor coaching, which felt topical.